For the first time in the 25-26 season, I'm going to be bringing you some Championship content. Now, we're going into a big season in the Championship this year. A lot of big teams obviously coming down from the Premier League. A lot of new teams coming up to the Championship. The likes of Birmingham City returning. We've got Wrexham being in there for the first time in 40 odd years. Charlton making their return after a very impressive second half of the season. And then you've got some of the big boys like Southampton, you've got Leicester City, former Premier League winners, Ipswich Town coming down, Sheffield United is still in there, so the league next season is looking very, very strong. We're going to be looking at the Bookies' early Championship predictions for the bottom three and the top six, and I'll be giving my spin on this. So before we get going in today's video, if you'd like to see more Championship content, then make sure to drop a like and make sure to subscribe. And without further ado, let's get talking about who they think is going to finish bottom. 24th place, they've got Oxford United. Now I think this is a very interesting pick for 24th place. Of course, rock bottom Oxford United they've predicted, and I think this is quite an interesting choice, like I've said, because they had a comfortable 17th position place last season in the Championship, returning to the Championship for the first time in many years, and to come and finish in that solid 17th place with, I wouldn't say limited resources, but definitely less resources than most teams in the division in terms of transfer funding and attracting those big players to survive in the Championship. So I think they did really well in that sense. I definitely think they exceeded expectations they had going into that season. Now, I think this season in the Championship, the 25-26 campaign is looking very harder, especially with the newly promoted teams really strengthening early on in the transfer window and, making some real statement signings. You look at Oxford United, they've made just the one permanent signing, a defensive midfielder, and just the other day they lost Ruben Rodriguez, who was an attacking threat for them last season heavily in the 41 games he did play. I think he got 5 goals and assists in the Championship, so they need to obviously replace him, who was a key player in that attacking third. And I think it is going to be interesting to see how Oxford United do. Of course, like I said, the quality in this division this year is a lot higher than I would say last year, and I think what doesn't help Oxford is the fact that their away form last year was pretty poor. Excluding the teams that went down last season, they had the second worst away record, only picking up 15 points away from home. So if they want to survive, they definitely need to improve on that, and they need to bring a couple more players through the door, or else I think 24th place could definitely be a possibility. Maybe not 24th, but if they don't strengthen, like I said, in the attacking third and just improve overall across the board, because they did have a very good season last year, but 17th this season with the teams coming up, the teams coming down, is it going to happen again? We really don't know. 23rd place, they've got Preston North End. Now, another choice that might cause mixed opinions amongst fans watching this. But last season for Preston was so underperforming. They're obviously that renowned team that are always in the Championship, always getting that mid-table place. But last season, they will be so disappointed with how they did. Obviously, just surviving relegation under Paul Heckingbottom. I think they were 1 point off, getting relegated. They survived on the final day, and you look in this season for Preston, they've had a few important players depart the building, so there's every chance that Preston could be a potential candidate to get relegated to League One this season. Their top scorer, Emile Rees, has just left for Bristol City, and the likely replacement so far is Daniel Jebson, on loan from Bournemouth. So I think make of that what you will. I don't think it's a very good replacement for Emile Rees, who has been their top goal scorer for seasons upon seasons. Looking at Freddie Woodman as well, their number one goalkeeper has left to join Liverpool, so they'll need to find a suitable replacement for him. Across the board, I think losing the number one goalie and the number one attacker is a big loss for Preston. But as well, on the other sense, you look at the young incoming players coming in, Fire, Thierry Small as well, are two really good solid signings. And then Paul Heckingbottom has also brought in some of the experienced heads into the changing room, Liam Thompson from Stoke City. So I think it will be interesting to see how Preston do. Of course, looking back at last year, Paul Heckingbottom came in 18th of August, so he didn't really have much of the transfer window to work with to get the players he wanted into the club. So with a full pre-season, getting the players he wants in, of course, he's ruthless. I don't think he'll keep players just for the sake of it. We know, obviously, he's been in those environments before, usually an environment which is very positive, of course. Sheffield United, Leeds United, he's been part of that Sheffield United coaching staff which has seen promotions from the Championship to the Premier League. So this is a different kind of test for Paul Heckingbottom. Of course, Preston aren't expected to be pushing playoffs. They had that one season where they did, but if you're looking at expectations of Preston this year, I think Paul Heckingbottom will want to bring in, like I said, that good balance between youth, exciting players who can obviously just take the team by the scruff of the neck, and the experienced heads who can just dictate the play and get the results over the line, which they have done previously. So I think that could have an impact. Paul Heckingbottom obviously having that full pre-season, but who knows how Preston will start the season off and how it will end for them. And in the final relegation spot, they've put Charlton Athletic. Now, I've got a feeling that Charlton will do a lot better than what people expect. Of course, Nathan Jones signing a new long-term deal is very, very big. It is a massive statement, of course, rejecting his boyhood club in Cardiff City, who have obviously just got relegated, but you can look at that in the sense they'll be looking to get straight back up, and they might do a Birmingham City. They might try and invest if they get the new ownership group in. So rejecting that Nathan Jones and obviously signing that 5-year contract is a massive statement. You look at the euphoria around the place, it must be an all-time high. Of course, the second half of the season that Charlton Athletic had was genuinely ridiculous, and obviously being a Wrexham fan, we obviously beat them to get promoted to League One, and we really did make them look like mugs that day. But across the board, I think they've had some really successful performances under Nathan Jones, and I think he will keep that momentum going into next season. And like I said, committing to the club for 5 years is a massive boost, not only for obviously the owners of the club, they can settle down, they can obviously offer him the transfer funds needed to push on in the Championship, and for the fans as well, they know that they've got an exciting manager who just wants the best for the football club and will always give his best for them. So I think as well, his recruitment so far has been good. Kaminski's coming in, who's got plenty of Championship experience. They've got the likes of Tanto Alafe, Amari Bell's come in, Sonny Carey, and with a couple more additions, I think Charlton will comfortably survive this season. Moving on to the playoffs now, 6th place, they have got Leicester City. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to Leicester this season, because we're still yet to find out whether they'll face a serious points deduction after breaching PSR rules, obviously in the Premier League. It's likely that if they are found guilty, the minimum point deduction that Leicester will face is 12 points. So it's going to be interesting. Of course, we've seen no incomings at the Foxes yet, and the only notable outgoing, of course, is Jamie Vardy, their long-term striker. They're still managerless. Chris Wilder has been linked with the job, but I think it all depends on what happens with this point deduction. If they're looking upwards of 15, 16, 17 points, it could get a bit messy at Leicester City. They could struggle as well to keep hold of the good players, the young, exciting players that they have obviously recruited in the Premier League. So it will be really interesting to see what happens this summer at Leicester City, and if things don't go their way, could Leicester be in for a shock season to what they're used to in the Championship and not be minimum top 3 or at least playoffs? I definitely do think there's a chance, like I said, with the point deduction. If you're bringing in a manager like Chris Wilder, at least he'll steady the ship. He's got the experience in the Championship, so don't be surprised if they have a massive points deduction and Chris Wilder keeps them up. But at the end of the day, 6th place for Leicester, is that a fair judgment so far? Obviously, without the PSR rules coming into place and without the points deduction, I think it is quite a realistic prediction with the quality they've got in the squad, but it all depends on that points deduction. 5th place, Coventry City. Now, I really admire what Frank Lampard has done last season at the Blues. Now, the continuous rise, of course, up the Championship under Mark Robins, the start of the season was very, very poor. They were just above relegation. Frank Lampard has come in and just hit the ground running immediately. He got the best out of players and he got the changing room back together. And like I said, they just continued to rise up the table, and by the end of the season, of course, they were in the playoffs. They just narrowly missed out on that trip to Wembley, of course, that 121st minute Dan Ballard winner. And I don't think Coventry will lose any key players this season, especially if Lampard is getting the best out of them. And I think as well, there'll be no doubtedly be a few more additions through the door for Coventry City, and I think they obviously want those 1 or 2 players that can take them from that playoff finish to aiming as high as that top 2 finish. Is it possible for Frank Lampard to take Coventry City up automatically to the Premier League? It's a stronger league, like I said, but there is every chance. He's a great manager, like I said. He seems to be working really well with most of the players in this squad, and I can definitely see Lampard keeping them up there again if he keeps the momentum going. 4th place, they've got Birmingham City, and this does not surprise me at all, and I wouldn't even be surprised if Birmingham this season push for automatics in that top 2. Now, in League One, obviously with Wrexham being in there last year, we kept a really close eye on Birmingham. They established a squad that I think would have finished top half in the Championship this season. The recruitment was phenomenal from them. They splashed the cash. They got some really good, bargains in through the door, Paker, Watter, but, their promotion to the Championship, it would be interesting to see how they did recruit in different positions, but they have just gone all out for it. They've splashed the cash once again, and they have brought some incredible players in. Damari Gray, Asai Samuel, Furuhashi, Tommy Doyle are just some of the names that they've brought through the door so far in the transfer window. We're still only like 3-4 weeks into the transfer window, probably even less, but they've done it early doors. They're recruiting players who have got experience, quality. Tommy Doyle as well, still being relatively young, but gaining that promotion to the Premier League before. What they're doing Birmingham City is a very exciting project, and they've obviously got the fan base. They've got a very good stadium. Like I said, the fan base, they'll have 25,000 fans in there every single week getting behind the team. It's a really exciting time. They've got a good young manager in Chris Davis who plays an attacking brand of football, and a really exciting brand which will get you off your seat and just continue to deliver with results. And you can say, yes, they've spent all the money, but this season will be a real test to see how they do. And I don't think you can sort of say they're ruining it, because for a League One team that have just got promoted, bringing in some of the names that they have brought in so far, yes, they've obviously got a good transfer budget, but you've just got to admire it. And I think they could be aiming for automatics this season. A Premier League return is well on the cards for Birmingham City, with a few more excellent signings through the door, which I wouldn't be surprised if they suddenly bring out a player from La Liga, Ligue 1 or something, because they seem to really do have that good pull in the transfer window. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do. Tom Brady's money is more than paying off. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you think Birmingham City can return to the Premier League this season? Third place, they've got Sheffield United. Now I think this will be a really interesting season for Sheffield United, not only for Sheffield United fans, but for neutral Championship fans, of course. For the past few seasons, we've seen Chris Wilder play his usual style of football. He's obviously left, and they've brought in Ruben Sellers, who will set up with a completely different dynamic to Chris Wilder. And I think it's definitely a bold move, getting rid of a manager who, I think it's fair to say, this season would have guided Sheffield United to probably another playoff finish, maybe even a top 4 finish, because, you know, he's a serial winner in the Championship. He knows the city of Sheffield, he knows the team of Sheffield United, he knows what it means to the fans. So bringing in a manager like Ruben Sellers, who of course has been at Southampton in the past, been relegated with them, and his only real job has been with Reading in League One, where yes, he did a good job, and he left obviously to Hull City, and then things didn't really go too well. I think he would have stayed at Hull City had it not been for obviously possible issues behind the scenes that he might have known about. And I don't think it's guaranteed that Sheffield United will do as well as they did last season, because they're under a completely different dynamic, like I said, under Ruben Sellers. And I think the big one is losing Vinny Souza as well, who has left the club to Wolfsburg. That is a big, big loss. They've got Oli Arblaster coming back from his ACL injury, but I think it's going to be a priority to replace the right player, obviously Vinny Souza, with a player that can come in and just hit the ground running immediately, fill his boots really well. So will they obviously opt for those loan signings that Chris Wilder did last season? Sellers, of course, he's brought in Tyler Binden on loan, so is that sort of a sign that he will go down a similar route to what Wilder did? They had 7 last season, so it will be interesting to see what happens, but I think at the minute it's not a guarantee that Sheffield United will be this high. Second place, they've got Southampton now. Yeah, I can sort of agree with this. Of course, recently relegated from the Premier League, they'll be back to do well, obviously with an already good quality squad they've got, with the parachute payments. And I think Southampton, yes, they're going to be up there again, but I think there's a lot of pressure on Will still. Of course, his first job over in England, can he deliver? How will he do in such environment as well? It's so demanding, and yeah, it's different to what he has faced in the past. Of course, with Lens, he was the manager there, and providing as well that Southampton don't lose any more key players and recruit relatively well in good positions and good areas of the pitch, I think they should be top 6. Top 6 should be a guarantee no matter what for Southampton this season. I don't think they'll struggle in bringing good players in that are going to compete in the top half. And you're looking at the likes, the core of the team, Howard Bellis, Mateus Fernandes, Tyler Diblin. If they can all get those to stay, then I think promotion back to the Premier League is almost a guarantee for Southampton. Of course, they're looking to reinvest as well money they do get from possible departures back into the squad. It'll be interesting to see what his view of recruitment is for Will still, but yeah, I think Southampton this season will definitely be up there. First place, they have got Ipswich Town. Now, as things stand, in my opinion, I've got them down as favourites. You've got Kieran McKenna, who is an exciting manager, of course, was highly sought after last season. Manchester United were fighting to get his signature, to get him in the dugout, and I think, you know, he will have a big part in keeping some of the players into the club. Obviously, with the relegation from the Premier League, they've got a really good squad as it stands. Good depth in a lot of positions, and you know, they're going to recruit even further. You've got Kieran McKenna, exciting brand of football, likes to work with those youth players and likes to bring them up, and like I said, just likes to deliver results and play an attacking brand of football like Chris Davies does at Birmingham, which will get you off your seat, will get the results you need. And I think he has established a good mix between youth and experience in the Ipswich squad. And yeah, they've got a top manager who's been out this league before. They've got promoted when there were some good teams in that division, and yeah, I think it's almost a guarantee that Ipswich will be up there again. I think a lot of the recently relegated Premier League sides are obviously going to be competing, so let me know your thoughts, who you think will win the Championship this season based on early predictions. So that is it for today's video. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like, make sure to subscribe as well if you would like to see more Championship content on the channel. Until the next video, take care.